Alrighty, guys. Good morning to you all here. It is Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. And we have got a very destructive day across the Central Plains today for severe weather. A level 4 out of 5 moderate risk being introduced this morning and last night. As expected, I kind of mentioned that in my video yesterday that would be a possibility going into today for damaging winds. And we did, in fact, get that risk zone. And that will be across the northern Oklahoma area going into southern and central Kansas. Across most of Kansas today, it's going to have the threat for winds from 70 to 100 miles per hour. We're going to have the threat for a couple of tornadoes today. A couple of strong tornadoes are on the table, and then the threat for extremely large hail, 2 to 3 plus inches in diameter today across much of the Central Plains. We're going to break all this down for you guys here, talk about what's going on right now, talk about what's going on in general over the next couple of days. We're going to continue to see severe weather through the next 3 to 4 days here, and then we kind of get a little bit of a break, and then severe weather will return to the high plains, but most of the eastern half of the United States and central half of the United States will be getting a huge break after we get through Friday. So we'll talk about all that, get that out to information out to you guys today. I will let you guys know we will have a full-blown live coverage today starting around noon to 1 o'clock Central Time. We'll be on all day and all overnight tonight to get through you guys through this event today. This is going to be a pretty long event today, so expect a good 12-hour coverage stream today for you guys, and then we'll have stream tomorrow, and we'll have stream on Friday. Or not Friday, but going into Thursday. So I want to start out by talking about the tropics, because we have tropical storm down here in the Pacific Ocean here. This is going to be eventually becoming a hurricane. Tropical Storm Eric here sitting at tropical storm force winds at 45 miles per hour. Expected to become a hurricane later on tonight or by tomorrow morning here, and then make landfall down here in southern Mexico as a Cat 1 or higher hurricane here. We could see some rapid intensification get going. The storm definitely looks like it's strengthening very, very quickly here. Water temperatures down here are very, very warm, so it does support the chance for rapid intensification. That's when a storm undergoes rapid intensification within a short period of time. So we're going to have to watch this today. Some of the models do have this making Cat 3 or higher hurricane status. The reason why I'm talking about it is because it does affect populations here. We are going to be watching a landfalling hurricane make landfall somewhere in Mexico tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow midday. So we'll be talking about that a lot, but you can see Eric's down here spinning and continuing to strengthen over the next couple of days here, or the next couple of hours before it makes landfall tomorrow afternoon. We'll keep you guys updated on that. Blobs of convection down here. We're not expecting any type of tropical system development right now in the United States, but we do need to watch for a blob of convection here that's going to eventually bring some moisture into southern Texas, and this could lead to a flooding problem as we go towards the beginning of next week, and we'll start to talk more about that as we get closer to that event happening here. And then we've got a lot of stuff ongoing here across the United States. Let me turn the satellite imagery off here so you guys can see what's ongoing. Multiple complexes of storms. You guys got a lot of heavy rain and a lot of wind last night across Kansas here. Those complexes are moving out. Most of these are sub-severe at this point. There is still a couple severe thunderstorm warnings out there. This is not the main event today. Both of these areas are going to clear out, and we're going to see new supercells fire off. The chance for even a derecho on the table today. Once again, a derecho is a big windbag event. We saw it happen in Texas literally a week and a half ago. The fact that we've had 2 moderate risk zones issued within a less than a 14-day period is kind of crazy. So another day expected of wild weather today across the Central Plains here, including Garden City, Wichita, getting down in Oklahoma City, Salina, Kansas, Kansas City. You guys have got to be weather aware today. Today is not a day that you want to mess around with Mother Nature, because it's going to be a pretty wild day in terms of all modes of severe weather. So we're going to break that down. Also, a little marginal risk along the southeast, the east coast here, and up in the Ohio Valley. We'll talk about that as well. But we'll go ahead and break that forecast down for you guys and start with what the Storm Prediction Center has today. And we do have, like I said, that level 4 moderate risk out of 5 here today for damaging winds in excess of 70 to 100 miles per hour. That's a 45% chance within somebody getting a 100 mile an hour wind gust somewhere in this area here, at least up to 100 mile per hour wind gust. And I wouldn't be shocked to see a winds over 100 miles per hour if this line of storms can get going this afternoon. There's a little bit of uncertainty in timing of convection and if we're going to fully get a whole line of storms, but the risk zone is out there in case it does happen. So it's not a slam dunk, but it's a pretty good chance that we're going to get some areas in that red risk zone, that moderate risk zone or enhanced risk zone, to see 70 to 100 mile per hour winds. So everybody needs to be taking these areas very, very seriously, whether you're in the marginal, whether you're in the slight, whether you're in the enhanced or the moderate. We had a tornado warning in western Kentucky yesterday in a general thunderstorm risk. So severe weather can happen outside of those marginal risk zones, guys. So I always tell people, whether you're in a dark green or a light green, it does not matter. Be weather aware no matter what you're doing here. So, like I said, moderate risk on the table there for Garden City, Liberal, Wichita, Kansas, Hutchinson, Kansas, getting into Dodge City, Kansas as well there. We've also got the enhanced risk here for portions of Colby, Kansas, getting into the eastern side of Wichita, Woodward, Oklahoma. Tulsa, you're trying to slide into that enhanced risk there, so we're going to have to watch you guys. Topeka, Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas City, Lawrence, Kansas, Shawnee, Kansas, in that as well there. And then a slight risk that goes all the way up to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then up to Des Moines, Iowa, and then back down into OKC. Then we'll also have a marginal risk as well outside of that there in our little bean-shaped risk zone. And then we do have a marginal risk along the east coast here, as well as in the southeast and into the lower Ohio Valley for wind and hail later on this afternoon, and a small 2% tornado risk. That'll be at play over here into Baltimore and Washington, D.C., Virginia Beach, and Richmond, Virginia. 2% tornado risk today. The tornado threat today is not that big. It doesn't look that big. The wind threat and the hail threat is going to be our main threats today, but if we do get discrete supercells that can initiate somewhere in central and southern Kansas later on this afternoon before the main wind event gets going, we could see an isolated strong tornado today. So I wouldn't be shocked to see SPC upgrade to a 10% hatch tornado risk. They'll probably keep it off because it's a little bit more conservative. So if you're in central and southern Kansas today, we could actually see a couple strong tornadoes. We had a very photogenic and gorgeous tornado yesterday off an outflow boundary in Nebraska that wasn't even supposed to see a wedge tornado, and we ended up getting a 45-minute tornado on the ground in the near the Hayes Center area south of North Platte, Nebraska yesterday that was just photogenic, one of the most photogenic tornadoes of the year. A lot of chasers were on that storm yesterday, so if you did get to see that tornado on social media yesterday, was absolutely gorgeous. There was even a lightning strike that got taken with the tornado on the ground, and there was a rainbow over top of it. It was pretty unique yesterday in the middle of nowhere. So that tornado did no damage, but if it would have been in a populated area, we would have had some serious issues with that. But as I'm mentioning, though, 5% and 2% tornado risk today. There could be an isolated strong tornado risk at play. Just be mindful all modes will be possible. The wind threat is going to steal the show today. We do have a 45 and a 30% hatched wind threat. Anybody in this hatched region here, even the north side of Oklahoma City, 15% hatched wind threat here, could see winds of 70 to 100 miles per hour, and we could even see a couple wind gusts past that if this line really does intensify and get going. So like I said, a little bit of a question mark on when that's going to start going on this afternoon and how late that's going to transition to and kind of where that's going to go. When you get these mesoscale days, you guys know, kind of like we had in Texas a couple weeks ago, where we kind of waited for our Derecho to set up and it never got going until it got into the Fort Worth, Dallas area. It's kind of what we're looking at today, is kind of an uncertainty on what's going to happen, but all risk zones could see significant winds today in that moderate and in that enhanced risk zone. We do have a 15% to 5% wind threat. Outside of that, they're both on the southeast and back up here into the plains here for winds up to 60 to 70 miles per hour. We'll have to watch out for that as well. And then we do have a hail threat, a 30% and a 15% hatched hail threat for today, for hail exceeding up to 2 to 3 inches plus in diameter. Outside of that, hail in the 15 and 5% could exceed 1 to 2 inches in diameter. So you guys need to have alerts on your phones today. You need to know where to go when you get tornado warnings. You need to know where to go when you get severe thunderstorm warnings. Tie stuff down, tie trampolines down. Today is a day where you guys have got to take straight line winds seriously. We talk about this a lot. People are like, tornadoes are the biggest threat. Not necessarily all the time. When you get a wall of wind producing 70 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts, that can make a tornado look like nothing on pen and paper. So you guys need to be taking these risk zones very seriously. You guys can ask the people in Texas that experienced this last week how they feel on that. And you guys have had your fair share of these type setups in Kansas and northern Oklahoma a lot over the last couple of years. So I'm pretty sure you guys know what today is going to be and what could be if everything kind of comes together here. So we'll talk about what the timing and all that looks like here in a minute. I want to jump to the risk zone here for tomorrow, as we do have another severe weather outbreak expected tomorrow, and I wouldn't be shocked to see a couple strong tornadoes up and around northern and central Indiana, northwestern Ohio, and up into southern Michigan. So we'll have a higher corridor of low-level jet shear that could allow for storms to rotate a little bit quicker tomorrow if we do have any discrete supercells. But nevertheless, level 3 enhanced risk back here from the outskirts of Detroit, Michigan, back down here through Fort Wayne, Indiana, getting into central Indiana, Indianapolis here, St. Louis, Missouri, getting back up here into central Illinois and southern Missouri here, and then a level 2 slight risk that extends from Oklahoma City back all the way up to Michigan, and then a marginal risk outside of that with a marginal risk on the East Coast and a marginal risk on the northern high plains here. Tomorrow could be a little sneaky day as well. We do have a pretty big 5% and 2% tornado risk. 2% chance of seeing an isolated tornado from Oklahoma City, Norman, all the way back up into northern UP, Michigan here, western Ohio, western and central Kentucky, southern Indiana, and western Illinois, and then a 5% tornado risk that extends from basically the outskirts of Springfield up through St. Louis, Missouri, back up into central Indiana and southern and central Michigan and western Ohio here. Would not be shocked to see a 10% hatch tornado risk be introduced later on in future outlooks. If that tornado risk does increase, it does look like it's going to be very possible that we do see that going into the future. But the wind threat and the hail threat are going to be the primary threats here. Wind threat at 30%, 15, and 5. A lot of the models kind of a little bit skeptical on how tonight's event's going to unfold. Tonight plays a huge factor on what happens tomorrow. If this line of storms continues to progress through Missouri tonight, could kind of make things a little bit more lesser tomorrow. If it doesn't, and we do get a lot of instability tomorrow, and our front's a little bit stronger, and our low strengthens, we could see a lot bigger of an event tomorrow across the Ohio River Valley and down in the plains. So something to kind of watch for here. These mesoscale days, as I mentioned to you guys all the time, do not happen, or they do happen in some severity. So we'll have to just kind of watch the situation here. Hail threat at 15 and 5% as well, 1 to 2 inch diameter hail, but the wind threat's going to be the higher threat tomorrow, along with the tornado and a hail threat. So that'll be for tomorrow. And then we get to the day 3 forecast here, and we have another risk zone here along the East Coast and back up into the Northeast. Level 2 slight risk at play from North Carolina all the way back down here, or about all the way back up to the Northeast into Maine. I would not be shocked to see a level 3 enhanced risk for damaging winds also be introduced for somewhere here along the Northeast. We'll kind of wait for SPC to do its thing with that. And then a marginal risk outside that as far from basically the Canada main line all the way down to the Southeast. And then another marginal risk for our next system that will be coming in, going into the weekend here, going into the high plains again. So we'll continue to see severe weather in a lot of areas here. And then as we start to get into Saturday and Sunday, we should start to see ridging develop in the East Coast. Things will become quiet in the Ohio River Valley, the East Coast, and then we'll start to see more severe weather kind of spurt up potentially going until early next week across the high plains. But it looks to be summer is coming, guys. I promise it will be here. We will be getting into a ridge here soon. Less severe weather will be on the table, hopefully, as we get closer to July. So I want to break down this forecast with you guys. I want y'all to understand these are model runs, meaning that sometimes areas are not going to show storms on model runs and people are like, oh, I'm not going to get storms, the models don't show it. That doesn't matter. We've seen a lot of the times over the last couple of weeks here, really even the last just couple of years, that we've gotten better model agreement on things and that models try to show things that people can see storms where models don't have storms at. And so that's why SPC has outlined risk zones for you guys. So you may not be seeing storms on model runs per se in western Kansas or eastern portions of Colorado here, but it doesn't mean you're not going to get something because once again, the environment is going to be favorable for it. Storms don't care what models think. Storms are going to form where the environment's favorable at, and that's why those SPC risk zones are higher or lower where they're at because of the threat for severe weather that could be a possibility. So ongoing showers and convection will start to clear out. We'll continue to kind of watch this cluster of storms going through mid-afternoon across eastern Kansas here. This could set an outflow boundary out here, which allow for a couple supercells to initiate in and around north of Wichita here. And if that does happen, we could actually see a higher tornado threat just briefly over a couple of hours here in southeast Kansas. But what it looks like it's going to happen is we're going to try and get a line of storms going pretty significantly here across southern Kansas around 3 to 4 o'clock this afternoon. Kind of you get one cluster of storms moving through portions of western Missouri, eastern Kansas, and then we got a complex of storms that's going to try and develop out of Colorado and move its way into Nebraska and Kansas after 6 to 7 p.m. And we really get a pretty big line of storms developing here with some pretty significant wind potential. And I know a lot of you guys are thinking, that moderate risk and that enhanced risk is back over here into Colorado, back over here into portions of western Kansas. Why am I not seeing storms? Because the models do struggle, guys, with these mesoscale convective days. I mentioned that all the time. We've seen that happen a lot. We've seen a lot of error. We weren't supposed to see a gigantic wedge tornado yesterday in Nebraska and a 2% tornado risk, and we did. And that's because of a mesoscale accident. And that happens more times than people think not. Mesoscale accidents are when storms can flow off their own outflow boundaries, can help themselves rotate, help themselves strengthen, and that's something that can't be accounted for on model runs. So when we see those risk zones that are in areas that models aren't necessarily showing stuff in or showing stuff in currently, doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Just hopefully it doesn't happen, but it does mean the threat is there. So be mindful regardless of what models are showing here, guys. I just want y'all to understand that very significantly, because we could have honestly a full-blown derecho set up anywhere in this corridor today. It's just where's it going to initiate at? So as of right now, the models do have our main line of storms moving through at midnight tonight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning across eastern portions of Kansas, getting into western Missouri, Joplin, Springfield, getting up into northern Oklahoma here, getting into Tulsa. Could be looking at 70 to 80 mile per hour winds anywhere across this region here, 70 to 100 mile per hour winds, I should say, across this region, with a couple embedded tornadoes, some strong hail as well up there, 2 to 3 inches plus in diameter. I said some giant hail of 2 to 3 inches in diameter possible with that as well. There also will be a flooding threat, guys, with any of these heavier rain bands that do move over the areas that potentially stall out, or initially going to get some of these supercells that initiate this afternoon that could be very slow moving and could cause a flooding threat. So we'll talk more about that here in a second. I also want to mention there is a higher corridor of tornado parameters here across southern Kansas this afternoon. Early initiation, if we do get any supercells that can use this environment here, like I said, a strong tornado cannot be ruled out off the table here and going into the dinner time hour. And then as that Boeing line echo or that bow echo develops, we'll have that, tornado threat be a little bit lesser than what the wind threat will be. The wind threat will take over at that point, and we'll kind of see this exceed. And then going into tomorrow, we'll see those tornado parameters increase again. We'll kind of talk about that here again in just a second. I do want to go ahead and go to the Ohio River Valley here, kind of talk about what we're going to see. We'll go Midwest first because we do have a low end threat today. I do want to mention the damaging wind threat that could accompany some of these storms later on this afternoon here. Could see a couple of showers and complexes of storms moving through southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois. Some of the models have it, some of the models don't. The HER model's kind of struggling with that, but if we do see convection up here, it'd be marginal wind and marginal hail of 60 to 70 mile per hour chance of seeing wind, about a 5% chance with that up there, and then some small hail potentially. So not anything too significant, but it's as we get into tomorrow. Tomorrow looks to be more and more interesting here. It looks like we are going to get a corridor after 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon along our low pressure system. As our low deepens, we need to watch Chicago and east of Chicago back up into northern and central Indiana, western portions of Michigan. We could easily get a little regional tornado outbreak across this area tomorrow. I'm definitely concerned about that with the low level shear we'll have. The instability that we'll have in place. If everything comes together, we could actually see a regional tornado outbreak potentially tomorrow across southern Michigan, northern Indiana, and portions of even northern Illinois and northwestern Ohio, if that does get going. Back down here into Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and western Kentucky, the southern portions here, we'll be looking at more of a isolated tornado threat, and then a damaging wind threat and a hail threat will be the primary threats. As kind of a broken line we'll try to develop as our front comes through later on tomorrow afternoon. between 3 and about 8 p.m. And then that'll start to weaken as it gets into the lower Ohio Valley. So still a lot of uncertainty on how tomorrow is going to unfold. And like I said, that depends on what happens today. So we'll probably see models go back and forth with the intensity of today, go back and forth into intensity for tomorrow. So there's just a lot of uncertainty that I want to get to you guys on that. And I hate saying that because I want you guys to know what's going on. I want to be confident on what's going on. But me and probably a lot of other people that either stream weather or that are meteorologists are probably, probably thinking the same thing. It's all dependent on what happens to prior days before. So we'll kind of keep you guys updated on that in terms of what's going to be happening severe weather wise. We'll talk more about this in the stream today and just in general in future videos as we get closer to like tomorrow and going into Friday and Thursday here. So I do want to go ahead and talk about what's quickly here going to be happening with our jet stream. You can see the little trough here that's going to impinge, that's going to eject across the plains later on this afternoon. This is what's going to help initiate today's significant severe weather potential, even potentially a severe weather outbreak. That will continue to move its way across the Ohio River Valley tomorrow. We'll see a little bit of an enhancement of our jet. Could allow for a bigger day for severe weather tomorrow potentially. We'll see what happens with that. And then I want you guys to see something here. This is what I've been talking about for the last couple of days now. A big ridge is going to start to develop, and we're finally going to start to see things potentially dry out here going into the plains. And we are going to have to wait, until we get closer to the weekend here. There still will be some strong shear over top of the ridge, so severe weather will definitely be possible across the high plains and the upper Midwest going through Thursday and going through Friday. But as we go into Friday, that ridge is going to expand to the north, shift to the east here, and what that's going to do is it's going to push our upper level jet streak well far to the northwest here, and we are going to just have a gorgeously beautiful weekend across the Ohio River Valley, the southeast here, getting maybe even to the northeast. There will be a chance of some general showers and thunderstorms, but high pressure dominating. We're going to be seeing our first heat wave of the year, guys. Going into next Monday and Tuesday, we are going to have triple-digit heat value indexes across the Ohio River Valley, especially getting into Kentucky, Illinois, and Indiana. I've seen a lot of these heat value indexes being forecasted for 105 plus degrees, so that's what it'll feel like outside, not what it'll actually be, what it'll feel like, and that's going to make things feel very gross, very sticky. The dew points are going to be in the upper 70s. We're going to have temps in the 90s. It's just a great combination for disgustingly gross, humid, hot weather. It's going to feel like summer finally for y'all out there, so just kind of be aware of that there. And then we're going to watch this jet stream continue to go northeast here. We'll continue to see chances of severe weather going into the weekend and going into early next week here across the high plains. That ridge will continue to dominate here. And eventually at some point, you're like, all right, when is this troughing going to stop? When are we going to stop getting chances for severe weather? It looks like as we go into the first week of July, it's still a little farther ways out here, about 14 days here, but it does look to be going into the first week of July. This would be what we would want to see. This would be a big ridge across much of the United States here, potentially maybe going toward the July 4th holiday. This would be something I would love to see during the July 4th holiday. No troughing over the United States, quietness. We'll probably see general thunderstorms in some areas here, but this would be perfect on the spot. So let's all manifest this. Let's hope this comes to fruition here. We'll kind of keep you guys updated on that. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the video up here because we've been going for about 17 minutes. So probably one of the longest videos I've made today, but I wanted to get this information out to you guys today. We'll have a live stream here in a couple hours. We'll be ready to go for you guys to keep y'all updated as always. Stay safe, everyone. Have alerts on your phones. Know where to go when you get warnings, and we'll see you guys on the stream.